The following program is intended for a mature audience. Viewer discretion is advised.
This I've got to see.
It's worth watching, so stay tuned.
Jason's here, Andy's here, Patrick, Kent, Jared's here. Mr. JT, yeah, you're here because you want to be on fire in your own life. You want to feel inspired with the other men that are doing this work, whether you heard yesterday, you know, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, or I'm not feeling it in the bedroom, or I don't know about us. I don't know about our relationship. Whether you heard that yesterday or a month ago or a year ago, this work is one that when you find, you cherish the connections with other men around the world through Great Men Move Mountains, through the other forums that we're a part of, through this show, through connecting in meetups literally all over the world. We're going to be in Columbus, Ohio in a couple of weeks, the end of April 2021 here. We're going to meet men May 1st, Saturday, May 1st in Columbus. So if you're seeing this right now and it's before May 1st, 2021, and you want to meet us in Columbus, let me know. Otherwise, we've got Idaho going on at the end of May this year. Bunch of other stuff upcoming. So happy to see you guys. Fantastic. Let's jump into it. We start on the platform of comedy. Before we dive into the deep stuff today, I've got some interesting posts from the forum. I've got some David Goggins lined up today as well. I'm going to share a couple minutes of one of his compilation videos. He's awesome stuff. And that's about our theme of this week of letting go of judgment. We're talking about the warrior within you, the warrior archetype out of the 4 Jungian masculine archetypes, king, warrior, magician, lover. And we're talking about let go of judgment of yourself or for yourself. And David Goggins is sort of the king of that. And if you haven't met Miss Cynthia Cruz, she's the only woman allowed on this show for her feminine professional perspective. There, I said all the words separately together. Cynthia's the only woman allowed on here for her connections with men, the over 25,000 hours that each of us have had in this field, including the last going on 5 years of private practice. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you for having me as always, and happy Tuesday to you, or if it's your Wednesday, it's good to see you as well.
Oh, you are, man, starting to rise in the world. That's why you're here. You want to rise your emotions, your vibrations, your skills, what to do, the how to do it, and why you're doing it. Cynthia's Sexcapade spot today. Use the nipples to light her up. She has Hello Kitty on her wrist. Look at that. Oh my God. That is a fucking gorgeous corset. This is because you're going to be wearing this later today is why you wanted to preview it, right?
And I'm getting a Hello Kitty tattoo.
Oh, and the corset's cool. I mean, Hello Kitty, whatever, but as long as the corset happens. Yeah, she's enthralled. She's enthralled by Hello Kitty as well. She said, "Oh yes, use my nipples to light me up." That's what she's saying. I'm imagining that's what she's saying.
Yes.
That's right. Use my nipples. Cynthia's going to talk about that for a Sexcapade spot today. Let's go ahead and jump over to, I want to read a few paragraphs from, we've got King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and also this new book that I'm getting into, How Champions Think. He coaches, he's a doctor of sports psychology, and he coaches a lot of pro golfers and NASCAR and things like this. One of my clients actually turned me onto this book, and I'm enjoying reading it, or listening to it, I should say, while I'm on my morning walk. And here's a couple of paragraphs from Dr. Bob Rotella here. He says, "I've been privileged to spend my life helping people who want to be exceptional. A desire to be exceptional may not in itself strike you as unusual. Everyone as a kid has daydreams in which he catches the touchdown pass as time expires to win the Super Bowl, or she pole vaults 16 feet to win an Olympic gold medal. But I'm not talking about daydreams or about the unrealized fantasies of many adults. I'm talking about a desire so fierce that it changes a person's life. Exceptional people begin with just such ambitions. From them, I've learned how a champion's thoughts are different from the thoughts of most people. I've worked with exceptional exceptionally successful people in the entertainment and business worlds. Each of them has taught me something about the minds of exceptional people. They have confirmed my belief that the ideas people choose to have about themselves largely determine the quality of the lives that they lead. Yeah, the ideas that people choose to have about themselves largely determine the quality of the lives that they lead. So the thoughts you put into your mind drastically affect the life that you lead for yourself and your relationship with your family, with your kids, and the world. 100%. We can choose to believe in ourselves and thus to strive, to risk, to persevere, and to achieve, or we can choose to cling to security and mediocrity. We can choose to set no limits on ourselves, to set high goals and dreams, big dreams. We can use those dreams to fuel our spirits with passion, or we can become philosophers of the worst kind, inventing ways to rationalize our failures, inventing excuses for mediocrity. And this is going to actually segue. I want to jump over into David Goggins, like I mentioned. The power of your thoughts, choosing who you have around you to fuel you and fill you up. That's one reason that you're here. Hussein, good to see you, buddy. Dave turned his camera on. Love you guys. This is one reason that you are here, to put yourself around other people, myself, the other men here, Cynthia, this work, our vision for relationship, right? The love that you can bloom, the level 3, as David Data would say, of relationship, that soulful, sacred type of connection you want to have with a woman, and with a woman and in a relationship with her, is something that we believe in, that we practice, that we teach you how to do step by step. And that's one reason that you're here, because you want to rise up that belief that you can be this man, be this leader in your own life and in your relationship, and have her be hot for you. Or if she doesn't want to be on this train, that she can get off at the next station. And there's plenty of women that want to be on the hotness train, right, Bradbury? Just nod. Just not, yeah, buddy. Fuck yeah, buddy. That's right. That's why you're here, to raise up the people that you're around. So David Goggins, I curated this particular spot. I'm going to share about 2.5 minutes. Here we go.
Stay hard, because I realized once I was talking to myself the right way and all this shit wasn't in my mind, wow. I went from this piece of shit kid who thought he was dumb, not successful, insecure, who stuttered when I first saw somebody, to a person who can now do all these things just because I now control my own mind. When you get to the point where you really fucking don't care, you're dangerous. You become very, very dangerous. I'm not saying don't care like, I don't care if I do that. No, when you don't care about other people and how they view you, about how you walk, how you talk, how you dress, where you want to go with your life. With success in life comes more haters. Don't make them hurt your feelings. Use them for fuel. Use them for energy. In times of need, put them on the fucking mental Rolodex in your mind. And when you don't want to do shit, roll through your brain. Pull up that motherfucker that you need. That person who said you couldn't do something. Weren't fast enough, good enough, smart enough, where the fuck it may be. Use it for energy. Instead of killing them with kindness, torch them with fucking success. In life, we have to continue pushing past the odds. Use everything this world has to give you for fuel. Stay hard. Growing up, I didn't want to tell anybody I wanted to be in the military. Because why? Some of my black friends, I was afraid of what they think. I was afraid of what other people thought about me. So now, when I go in the military, I didn't know you want to fucking join the military. Yeah, I ain't tell you because I was afraid of what you thought. Once again, man, you're allowing other people to shackle your mind. It's the worst thing in the world. So when I saw the military uniform when I was...
Yeah, you cannot let other people or that voice within you shackle your mind. It's how you focus yourself, talking to yourself in the right way. So this is perfect timing to go over to our Staircase of Courage question for today. So as long as you're not tightening your corset or getting a Hello Kitty tattoo, in which case, more power to you. I want you to type into the chat right now, what are you intentionally creating today? Because you are creating, whether you realize it or not. So what are you intentionally creating today? Maybe it's just this morning or this afternoon. It's today. Maybe it's setting yourself up for the rest of the week or the rest of your year is something you're working on today. But punch this into the chat. This is the daily work that you do here, is to flush some of this stuff out. And I pick what's accessible to everyone. So no one has an excuse, unless of course you're tightening your corset, in which case, okay, you get a rain check. Punch into the chat. What are you intentionally creating today? Let's go over into a what would you do? I've got a couple different ones today, actually. I've got a sort of call out and response in a couple of these. I'm going to break this up, see how much we get to today. So this is a what would you do? This is definitely the participation section of the show today, guys, right? You're punching in the staircase of courage question. What are you intentionally creating today for yourself, for others? Are you serving others? What are you doing intentionally today? And let's get over into what would you do from the forum. I was thinking about what you said yesterday during the show about it being a little different today. So this gentleman's referring to the C-Note show. Is it the change of the season? Like I said, I do introspection on everything now. Like if I have I have ADD, just discovered that. And I was reflecting upon your metaphor of how we've changed like the season. I believe it's the perfect metaphor. We're changing like the season. We're growing. Where there were no leaves, some are starting to grow. And then, he was very honoring. I wanted to commend you, appreciate, and applaud both of you for creating a platform where men can change just like the seasons to become beautiful inside and out. Phenomenal. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next one. Today was rough for me. I know it's in my head. This is a bit of a rant and me trying to identify my own feelings. I keep hearing the story that I'm last on the list at home. I want to hold my family together, and if I continue to feel this way, I'm not sure that I'll be any good to them or myself. I used to feel very fortunate for her. Sometimes I lose sight of what I still have. I used to feel very fortunate for, okay. So sort of like putting her on a pedestal. I felt lucky. I feel very fortunate to have her, I suppose, in my life. Sometimes I lose sight of what I still have. Today, for some reason, I just can't see it. I keep thinking, why am I still here? Why will you settle being with a woman who is emotionally unavailable? You only have one life, and this relationship is not progressing. Hopefully, sleeping tonight might help, and maybe once the three of us are not all stuck under the same roof all day, every day, it will help. So I'm not sure of this man's backstory, certainly, but let's highlight, why am I still here? So what is he telling himself? I'm not sure I'm any good to them or myself in the way that I'm thinking. Why am I still here? Why will I settle for a woman who's emotionally unavailable? You only have one life and this relationship is not progressing. So with these, what would you do questions, where do you think this man is coming from and what does he want? Go ahead and unmute yourself and come on in.
Well, Jeff, I think he's coming from a place of shame. Why am I still here? Why? Anytime you hear the word why, the question why, it's an accusation. That's why you don't use why questions with your significant other, right? Because it's an accusationary type question. And you highlighted there putting her on a pedestal and that sort of thing. I mean, it's very close here to owning his place in the family and claiming leadership over the family as well. He's not far away from it. He's questioning. He's in that zone of evaluating everything. Now he's just got to make a choice. Do I want to be the leader of the family or do I want to give up? Nutshell, I guess.
Yeah, that's solid. That's what I was feeling as well. Like, what's the decision that he's going to make here? Do I want to be a leader of my own life or not? Right. And this, why am I still here? Why am I with a woman who's emotionally unavailable? Well, let me open this up too a little bit more, right? So she probably wasn't emotionally unavailable every single minute that he's known her. This has probably happened over time, or that's what's going on right now. And it sounds like some of these stories are sort of justifying to himself where he is. If I'm not feeling this way, will I be any good to them? as if that's a forever thing, or she's emotionally unavailable. Why settle as if that's a forever thing? It's sort of a victim mentality. Andy, let me ask you to come on in here. What else are you seeing about his own self? So our theme of letting go of judgment of self, how might you steer this man one step forward in maybe releasing some judgment for himself, or identifying even where there might be judgment for his own self?
Yeah, I think it feels to me that he's definitely in a place where he can either, I think he feels I'm getting the feeling that he feels he needs to make a decision, but yeah, he's finding it difficult. And maybe he's justifying having to make that decision by placing himself in victim mode, perhaps. It almost feels that he doesn't really know what to do in terms of, I don't know, maybe I'm feeling a bit, I like what Jason said about the shame, and I'm just wondering whether with the shame he feels any inkling of blame to where he is, but also I'm assuming that this guy's done a lot of growth, and yet there might be some fear involved in where he feel might be the right way to go, and some to move on and pursue what he feels is actually right for him, because that's a hard way to go as well. It's a really hard decision to make sometimes. And if he's got children, then placing in the context, giving up on your family, is he meaning his wife or his kids as well? Because you don't have to do both. So I kind of feel that from him.
Yeah. Well, Andy, what's a question that you ask yourself when you're defining what you want next? Because that seems to be the theme here, is he doesn't feel grounded in what he wants or his non-negotiables, right? His nuts. He doesn't feel like he's bouncing off of whatever that is. It feels like he's sort of adrift at sea. How do you help yourself clarify what you want in the next moment?
Yeah, I have to get really clear in my head what my purpose is and what I want for me, because I'm no good for anyone unless I'm good with me as an individual. And I have to pursue my plan, and quite often that's fearful and scary thing to do, but that's often a tool I then know is why I have to do it. I try to distinguish what I need to do and maybe what my monkey mind is saying to justify why I should stay in the comfort zone, and try and be aware of each one.
Okay, yeah. So flush out those voices, those inner voices.
Flush out the gremlins that are trying to convince me of something else, and be aware of which are the gremlins and which is really my path where I should go.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let me bounce over to Hussein. Hussein, can you talk right now? Can you jump in? So I haven't called on you in a bit. You and I talked quite a lot in the past, right? So I want to ask you, are you aware of your gremlins, what Andy was just saying? Are you aware of where you want to go next in this chapter of life right now? Check in with us.
Yes and no. Okay, so it really depends on the time that I'm thinking. Sometimes I'm really on top of everything. I do the practices, especially like the meditations or journaling every day, and that helps shaping my mind. And there are moments that I just fall back into the blame mode, I would say, or blaming myself or others or anything around me. So that's the truth anyway. But literally, I would say the stage that I am, I'm very happy. I'm seeing myself really growing, even at my work. Like if 2 years ago or 3 years ago, my work was something that I would need to fight and put a lot of energy into that to make it every day. Now is my load is higher, but now I enjoy it somehow. I don't know the shift, but that happened, and that happened so gradually, and that was surprising to me. And I don't know whether I answered your questions or not.
Yeah, well,
this is where I am.
absolutely. So yeah, you just said that happened gradually. What have you been doing? What have you been doing day to day or week to week or month to month?
Okay, so the first thing I would say was the awareness, like the time that we were talking, like one to one. Probably at the time, even when we had that conversations, or I was reading, I wasn't really getting the point, like truly. I was feeling something, okay, but I was not really understanding that part. And the main thing that I would say was quite effective was this daily journaling, and even writing some sentence to myself. That was a huge, I would say, help. And I was resisting that for long time, probably a year. And I was just, it's kind of very hard for me to write. That's I should confess. Like this is literally, I need to force myself. But this is the first things now that I do every day in morning. Like when I wake up, that's the first thing. I have my notebook, I just grab it. I start writing a few things, and that really shaped my day.
Wow.
And and after that, I do the exercise. So I shifted everything. So in the morning when I wake up after journaling, I do for half an hour or whatever. I do the exercise. I went to this challenge by Dennis for the push-ups and stuff, and I continued that one. And I try to have it at least like 4 or 5 days per week. I would say those were really like helpful in shaping that. The other thing that I do, I have this audiobook that anytime that I am in a boring meeting, or I just have these breaks, I just listen to the audiobook. And even any sort of books, and even the books that I have listened before, and now I see different perspectives in them. So these are the part I would say.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so phenomenal, so phenomenal. I relate to a lot of what you said. Writing is difficult for me as well, so I have to grab it first thing in the morning too, right? Yes, that's amazing, and you've shifted your morning and your mindset on things. The same, like you, I love that you continue to come here and up level yourself, and I wanted to honor you for that. So that's such good stuff, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And I learned a lot. Still, I'm learning. So there are a lot of points that when I'm hearing, it's just wow. And like the comments that Jason was mentioned, that this guy was putting a lot of why, and that's accusations. My mind was just puzzling how he could narrate that one, like how he could, put those questions, like should he, or there isn't any, and that should anyway. Like, is there a better way to kind of go back and see like where like he's standing, and analyzing that one, instead of putting those why that I truly understand. Yeah, those are accusations of others, and maybe self-blame too. Like I used to do that. But
yeah, that's a fantastic question, actually. So I'll put Jason on the spot here in a minute. So why am I still here? How else could he phrase this, Jason? I'll ask you in a minute. So why am I still here? Why will you settle being with a woman who's emotionally unavailable? And Hussein, before I go over to Jason, I want to honor what you said a minute ago too, which is, I wasn't quite getting it at the beginning. And I think that's every single one of us. And it also depends on what area of this work, right? I wasn't quite getting it. Might mean spiritually, it might mean the skills, it might mean the mindset, it might mean like, oh, that's great for you to say, Jeff. Like that's easy to say, but I'm in the, fucking neck deep in the swamp right now, and all that, right? So I totally honor what you said about I wasn't quite getting it, wasn't quite 100% clicking. I think that's every single one of us, right? And to your point you just made, I'm still learning as well. I mean, we're still taking advanced classes. We're still learning. I'm constantly reading new books, these kind of things, right? Going for a walk, making sure I take care of myself as well. So the journey that you're on, again, I want to say that I honor that journey, because this sounds beautiful. It's unfolding over time for you, and you're in a much better spot than you were, a year ago. Or
absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So cool. So cool. Fantastic. Yeah, thanks to Sam. So let's go over to Jason. Jason, I want to put you on the spot, buddy. So what other questions? I'll come back to the screen here. He says, why am I still here? Why will you settle? What do you think he could be asking himself instead? Yeah.
How is staying here still serving me?
So how? Right?
How or what? What is it in this situation I still love?
Nice.
What is it about her that is still holding me in this spot? What? How do I want to see this play out? Anything with a how or what question is going to be more empowering, because it's going to put the choice. It's going to put the evidence of choice right in front of you. To where why is almost a, you already know the answer. So anytime we use like a how question in particular is so empowering for us. How is staying in this situation serving me, I think is probably the most empowering question in that situation, because he can make a choice and he can actually evaluate, oh, it isn't serving me. It's serving me by allowing me to not make a decision in this moment. It's serving me in letting her be the bad person and leaving me. I mean, there's a whole different. It's going to open up a whole Pandora's box, if you will, of thoughts that are going to help him grow, rather than, why am I still here? Well, because you suck. Is kind of the answer.
Yeah, it's already the insinuated answer, right? Like, well, because you suck so bad, that's why.
Right. I mean, that may not be the total. That may be not the answer that he's leaning towards, but that answer is usually already there with a why question. So
yeah, I love that. That was phenomenal, Jason. So how is this serving me? Even if I don't like the answer, right? I'm avoiding. It's allowing me to avoid something. It's making her the bad guy. It's not honoring what I do really have control of. I can stay lazy in my day-to-day or my thoughts, this kind of thing. Yeah, that's a great point. So Cynthia, I want to jump over. Let's assume for a minute, gentlemen, that this is exactly the thoughts that this man has in his mind all the time. Let's assume that for a second. All the time, around his woman, around the coffee pot at 7 a.m, when he wakes up at 3:23 and looks over at his phone and shit, it's 3:00 a.m. Let's assume that he has these thoughts in his mind all the time. And Cynthia, I want to ask you, how would it feel for a woman if this man had these thoughts in his mind all the time? I used to feel fortunate to have her. I want to hold my family together, but I'm not sure I'm doing any good to them right now. Why am I still here? She's forever emotionally unavailable. Am I going to settle for that? Why would I be here with her? Let's assuming that he has that in his mind all the time. I'm laughing because this is fucking heavy, right? So let's assuming he has that in his mind all the time. What does that feel like for the woman in his life?
Well, I could imagine actually, even me as a woman, if I was having those thoughts, there would be that energy of resentment. And I think any of us, and especially her, if he's walking around, whatever thoughts he's having are going to create some sort of emotional pattern in his body. And he might be able to compartmentalize that really well, but it's still there. And so she's going to feel, it's very real. I don't blame him for having anger, resentment, fear, frustration, but she will feel that. And however conscious she is of that, she might turn that like feeling in the space back at him. And it's kind of rumbling in her as her own resentment, or it could be this feeling that whenever he looks at her, there's you're not meeting my expectations energy that's coming from him. And the feminine strives to want to embody what is needed, what is wanted. And even if she's decided I'm not going to be that for him, she's going to feel his constant understanding that she's not meeting what he's wanting. And that can feel pretty awful on the other side of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for any of us, if the person in our life or someone who's very important to us and we show up and they've got they're not meeting my expectations. If you felt that way around your boss or your kids or these people that are important to you, it's going to feel pretty terrible and you're going to want to take space. So there doesn't seem to be much positive there for her to want to circle her back around too.
Yeah, in that space. And you know, you would give feedback of what the masculine does, but the feminine, and I'm not just saying women, but I'm saying the feminine energy in women, when there's that constant, you know, you're not meeting my expectations, this isn't enough, not seeing any goodness or greatness in her, the feminine just kind of withers away. It's almost like there's no water being poured on the plant, and just that's what plants do. They just get dried out and shriveled in, and that's exactly what feminine energy does.
Well, I mean, John Wineland would say, where can he gift freedom? How can he gift her freedom? And right now it feels like she's under the pressure of his constant disapproval. So one place that he could gift her freedom is to let go of his judgments of the situation. And that's easier said than done, but that's part of what we're doing here. Part of what Jason asked. And one other question I would add to that for him to ask himself is, where can I serve in my life? Where can I serve myself? Where can I serve others in my life? And that's probably not talking more about the relationship right now. It's probably not judging her or negatively judging himself. Yeah, Andy, thanks for raising your hand. Come on in.
Yeah, just wanted to add that when you reading it again, then it really came across. It really felt like there's like an energy of like low self-worth and low self-esteem. And if you're feeling that way, you're giving out that energy as well. And I love what Cynthia says, because if you're giving out that, people pick up on the energy that you're producing within yourself, and it's quite possible then that people are picking up on this energy. So I was just writing down, you know, what does he need to do to change that frequency, to put himself on a higher frequency and take his way out of, bring himself, because he can only do it himself, out of that low self-esteem. So he gets himself bidding up higher and creates energy that's attractive, not creates energy that perhaps has been developed from thoughts that he's got going on in his head that aren't really coming from deep within him, like low energy thoughts, and how he can clear his mind, clean out the jutter and the gremlins, what he can do to build himself up and become, you know, a really fucking awesome man and give out great energy, which everyone feels when you've got that energy. So yeah.
Yeah, completely. I agree. Absolutely. How can you step himself up the ladder, going from apathy to maybe despair? It's hard to feel despair. So sometimes it's easier to feel nothing, right? Despair or fear or confusion, and up to more of an acceptance of where things are in this moment. He doesn't have to like it. It's an acceptance of it. All of those are steps up the ladder in a positive direction. That becomes an upward spiral. And then what can I control, as you know, Rob Piotrowski loves to talk about, and I so honor him and his 3 buckets. What can I control? What can I influence? And what can I not control? So what can I control? Where can I serve? How is the way I'm thinking influencing me and those around me? What's the perspective I have on this? How is this serving me? These are all fantastic questions. Yeah, Andy, so for me, it would be take a step outside, go for a 5-minute walk, right? Go splash water on your face while you're washing your hands for 1 minute, saying something you're grateful for in your life. You know, these sound small, and they are in and of themselves, but they add on to an amazing life. They build up to an amazing moment, an amazing morning, an amazing day, right? And these build on each other up to an amazing life. It's not magic. It's all these things. 1 + 1 = 1,000,000.
Yeah, and it's like the energy that we are creating for ourselves. That energy can create thoughts as well. When you're angry, you can come up with anger thoughts, and it comes from that energy. The same with like low self-esteem. So awareness is a great tool. And I love what Hussein says. It's brilliant to write the thoughts down. And I love what you say as well, which has been brilliant for me. Putting yourself on a bench and speaking to yourself using the word you. What's up? What's going on? How are you today? And trying to get your subconscious thoughts out to know where you are and working on yourself.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Andy. You mentioned that the mirroring yourself or copying yourself, put a copy of yourself beside you for 2 minutes and have a short conversation, or just be with yourself as a copy of yourself in the room for 2 minutes.
Be brutally honest.
Meditation. I'm glad it's working. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Fantastic. Well, I want to honor a couple of responses from the forum as well. Here's a huge benefit of being on the forum with around 200 men are these different responses. Now, one of these is from Dan Dorr, and one of these is from Sven, I believe. So they kicked into the same post. This is a reply. I can relate to this personally a lot. What I've seen time and time again is that my wife and everyone in my life lives up to my regard for her. When I regard her as emotionally unavailable, she will react to me and my perspective as, sure enough, she'll keep her distance. When I regard her as the beautiful, unique, sensitive, caring, creative, loving, fun individual I know her to be at her core, she can relax and start to be that woman. When I start from a deep respect and love for this dear friend I have in my life, the energy I'm creating and giving to her without doing anything is a very fertile ground, which she does love to step onto when she can. Many times she can't, and all I can do in these moments is understand that and empathize. And behind my ability to create this fertile ground consistently is my true love and trust in myself, who I'm being in this life, what I'm creating, my purpose and my mission. And he asked the poster, are you clear on who you're being and what you're creating? So back here, when I regard her as the beautiful, unique, and loving person that I know her to be at her core, often it's very hard. Often it's very difficult to give love to someone or see them in the light that you know that they are. Maybe especially when you first met this woman, or if you're talking about your child who's, there's a lot going on in the world with them right now, whether they're disappointing or they're acting out or whatever it may be, right? It's really easy to focus and stew on those negative things that are happening. And especially if we feel shame about those things ourselves too, it's going to trigger us even more. But it's hard to see the loving, caring individual that your woman is if there's shit hitting the fan, if there's infidelity happening, if she says, you go sleep on the couch, if she says, we've never been happy, I never want anything to do with you. Well, you can choose to fall into that narrative, which isn't going to go anywhere good, right? Or you can choose the direction you want to turn your shoulders in the narrative that you want to have in your mind. And that doesn't mean that you're Pollyanna or naive. It's you're choosing what's going to serve the situation. And by the way, if it's no longer being in this relationship, then that's the choice that you'll make, right? At some point after knowing that you've done this work, knowing that you're on the path and you've accomplished the goals that we talk about here, the how, the what, the why, the 3 forms of confidence, the morning routine, like Hussein was talking about. You want to get these skills under your belt before you make any kind of decision like that, right? And one of those is to practice, what are the thoughts I have in my mind? Another man says, I'd add one additional insight. I found in myself and my experience mentoring other men a rule of sorts, that the way we show up toward our spouse is generally a reflection of how we regard ourselves. I've yet to meet a man who felt irritated, frustrated, exasperated, disappointed, disconnected, who wasn't internally experiencing those things about himself. Many times these men don't even know it. We can only show others the level of regard we have for ourselves, not intellectually, but experientially. Experientially, the regard we have for ourselves. And then one other question for that man was, where are you in your list of priorities? So it's these priorities in his life. Where are you? Like Hussein was talking about, like we talk about and we teach. When you get up in the morning, is your email the first priority? Is your fucking Instagram feed your first priority? Or are you your first priority? Doing 2 minutes of journaling, 2 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of breathing exercise, going 30 minutes for a walk, or you're hitting the gym in the morning. Where are you in your priorities list in the day? That's something you're modeling for your kids. You're modeling for her as well. Cynthia, what would you like to add on for this man here, for this post? Anything else around? So if his wife is saying, she's emotionally unavailable and that this isn't progressing, and basically, I don't know the backstory about this man, but he says at the end here, maybe once the 3 of us are not all stuck under the same roof all day, I guess that's because of COVID. what might you say if this woman's not wanting to circle back around, right? What might you add that we talk about here that as a woman is attractive in a man that's even in a tough spot? So maybe he honors the spot that he's in, and you're behind him in the coffee line at the, or maybe it depends on where you are in the world, whether there's anything open up for you or not. But, you're interacting with him maybe at work or wherever it may be. And even though he's in a shit spot, he has a certain frame of mind. What might that frame of mind be that's attractive to women?
Yeah, well, yesterday we talked about the energy of optimism, and that's, part of today. It also makes me think of, there's been some gentlemen where I've shared with them, hey, when you're sharing your anger and your frustration about your ex with your new woman, that's just never going to end up well, because the new woman in your life is going to feel how judgmental you've been of yourself, of this other person, how ragged and angry you have been. And she's going to think, God, at some point, am I going to do something that he's going to feel this way about me? And I know that's talking about a new relationship, but that kind of energy, a woman behind you in the coffee shop can also pick up on too. So it's how can you, with all these incredible tools that Andy's mentioned and Hossein's mentioned and Jason mentioned and you mentioned, make sure that the judgment of yourself for what's gone on is not globbing onto you every day in every way? And how can you bring that optimism of yourself where you're headed into even those moments of maybe even mindlessly standing, waiting for your coffee? Those moments do matter to those around you. And we all can choose in that moment to be like, I'm going to be in my warrior, very angry mode, and that's okay. It makes an effect. And then we can choose to be in another mode, and that makes a different kind of effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, if this man, and because he's doing this work, I'm assuming that the way he's talking, he would like version 2.0 of the marriage. He'd like version 2.0. But to your point, if it's a new relationship and he's bringing the old baggage, the old frame of mind into the same space right now, why would she even consider wanting more of the same with him? Like, he needs to have a different frame of mind when he's around her 99% of the time for her to consider something different, for her to change the old story that she has about you. You can't continue to bring up the old energy of the old story. That's one thing that would add to, that's exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump over to King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and I curated a couple of spots here. We've moved forward within the warrior energy, and this is a bit about what we were just talking about, and as far as slipping into the shadow of the warrior. So you have to be aware of the abyss, of the trap in life, of the traps, the trappings around the warrior energy. And this is from King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Moore and Gillette. Any profession that puts a great deal of pressure on a person to perform at his best all the time leaves him vulnerable to the shadow system of the warrior. If we are not secure enough in our own inner structure, we will rely on our performance in the outer world to bolster our self-confidence. What does this sound like, by the way, that if you think you have to have a perfect body or a perfect relationship, if you have to be perfect all the time, it makes you more vulnerable to the shadow of the warrior, and then more to rely on the outer world to bolster your self-confidence. This is going in the wrong direction, right, guys? We want it from the inside. So here we go. And because the need for this bolstering becomes so great, our behavior will gravitate toward the compulsive. The man who becomes obsessed with succeeding has already failed. He's desperately trying to repress the masochist within him, yet he's already displaying masochistic and self-punishing behaviors, again, comparing himself to perfection or some other external form of success. The masochist is the passive role, the passive pole of the warrior shadow. That's the pushover, the whipped puppy that lies just beneath the sadist's rageful displays. So again, the two shadow poles of the warrior are the masochist and the sadist. Men are right to fear the coward within them, even if they don't have the sense to fear their macho exteriors. The masochist projects warrior energy onto others and causes a man to experience himself as powerless. The man possessed by the masochist is unable to defend himself psychologically. He allows others and himself to push him around, to exceed the limits of what he can tolerate and still keep his self-respect, not to mention his psychological and physical health. No matter, all of us, no matter what walk of life, can fall under the power of the warrior's bipolar shadow in any area of our lives. It may be that we don't know when to quit an impossible relationship, a circle of friends, or a frustrating job. We all have heard quit while you're ahead or learn to cut your losses. The compulsive personality, no matter what the danger signs, no matter how impossible the dream and unbeatable the foe, the compulsive personality digs in and works harder, trying to get blood from a turnip and watching his gold turn to ashes in the end. If we are under the power of the masochist, we will take far too much abuse for far too long and then explode in a sadistic outburst of verbal and even physical violence. This kind of oscillation between the active and passive poles of the archetypal shadows is characteristic of these dysfunctional systems. So when we fall into the ways that we don't want to be, we go farther, farther, farther past our boundaries, past our wants. Maybe we're a punching bag. We're taking what we shouldn't be taking. We should have stood up for ourselves a long time ago. So really at that point, either we collapse into self-loathing or apathy or everything's my fault, or we more explode into that sadistic warrior energy that the book was just talking about, in a feeling to shove the person back away from us, or shove the dishonor, or shove the wrong farther away from us, to stand up and protest. But that pushes people away, right? That abuses the situation around us in an angry way. And it's not necessary. That's something that I used to do in the past before I was aware of all this work as well, before I found this work. I just spoke with a man yesterday. He actually, as our first call, he played big level college football, and he talked about exploding into the opponent, and knee-jerk reactions are what he lived off of. And now the explosions, the anger, the knee-jerk reactions, guess what? They're not working in his family and in his relationship. So we have to be aware of these things first and start to speak up for ourselves in a healthy way sooner, including with our own self. And that's why we journal. That's why we do these practices. That's why we learn. Let me segue that, right? That's why we use that power in other ways. We use it in sexcapades. Let's go ahead and get over to Cynthia's sexcapades spot. Yeah, let's see how else I can say. Just like you want to light up your life, you want to light her up. And Cynthia's sexcapade spot today, use the nipples to light her up. I'm definitely wanting to know how to use the nipples to light. Is there LEDs involved? Is there plugging into a power outlet involved?
Yes, and flashing.
Oh, flashing. So please take it away. Use the nipples to light her up, please.
Well, we talked today in that post about the idea of like a woman being emotionally available. And so much of a woman's turn on, so much of the way the feminine lights up in her whole body and sparkles for you begins with an emotional connection. That emotional connection with you actually begins in her brain. Her turn on starts in her brain. So we've talked in Sexcapades about ways to verbally light that part of her brain up, how to relationally light that part of her brain up. But there are some tricks of how to use very special places on her body to activate the emotional centers of her brain, that open part of her brain, that sensational part of her that needs to be in the game for her to want to jump into bed with you and play around. Without that part of her brain in fireworks, that's when you get the excuses that were in the the very beginning video that you showed. So here's how to use her nipples as a shortcut to that part of her brain. And I know touching her nipples, nipple play, is not a new technique, but there's a way that you can use your savvy and know-how to really make this work and turn her into LED flashing bulbs for you. So for some women, the way to light up her brain is to go right for the nipples. When some women's nipples are touched, it sends the same signal to her brain as is if you were touching her clitoris or her genitals. Some women are even able to orgasm just by nipple stimulation. And we're talking about lighting her up. That connection of nipples to brain to genitals can feel like a lightning bolt of electricity and pleasure and tension for her. So here's one way that you can stimulate her nipples. You can start by making soft gliding circles around them without actually touching them. This builds suspense and sexual anticipation. And suspense and anticipation, these are emotional states for women. So again, you're lighting up that part of her brain. Then move on to the nipples with feather-like touches. Go from the nipples to the breasts interchangeably, slowly and seductively. From this, you can even start to pinch the base of her nipple, and the hardness of this can depend on your woman. It can depend on where she is in her monthly cycle, but that's something that you can really find out with her. And lastly, you can combine the pinching with a bit of rolling of the nipple by using your thumb and index finger. Go from light to hard pressure to build more of that suspense, to build more of that emotional connection, to build more of those fireworks in her body.
So for some women, it's right to the nipples. Which women would that might be? How do we know? Do they have earrings on? The women that have earrings on.
Yes, they have it's a Hello Kitty.
Oh, nice. Good one. It's the Hello Kitty.
Yes.
Well, so help us understand, why would a woman want or not for you to want to go right for the nipples, like you said?
Well, I think it's not so much whether she does or doesn't, but if there is that kind of emotional connection going on, and then approaching her body with a softness. Like in this technique, it's not going right to squeeze her nipple. It's not, walking by in the kitchen necessarily, like touching her nipple right away. There's a softness of touching around her first. It's engaging her body to be ready for more sensitive, deeper play with you.
Yeah, and that's the theme, gentlemen, of climbing the staircase of intimacy, right? Don't try to jump from 0 to 10 or 0 to 8. We're building up over time. And underneath that too, that we talk about, and I want to ask you here briefly, does it show her? So you said one thing in there, that these are emotional states for her, build suspense and sexual anticipation as their emotional states. You say something more about that as far as him honoring these emotional states?
Yeah, the excitement and the passion, the joy, the pleasure, these are all things that are, 99% of a woman's turn on with you. It's a feeling her heart open. It's feeling the tingling of that excited energy. And those are really, it's almost like that's the kindling beneath the match of what you're wanting to light up in her and set fire for in her body.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, we definitely want to set fire in her body in a good way. Absolutely. Thanks for being here, gentlemen. Good to see you. Andy's here, Jason is saying, Dave, Patrick, Richard, JT, Rob, Kent, you guys are fantastic. Post in our Facebook forum. If you're watching this and you're not yet a part of our free private Facebook forum, go to greatmenmovemountains.com/Facebook, and we'll have to invite you in. There's about 200 amazing guys in there. gentlemen that have just started this journey or have been in this journey for, years at this point and are phenomenal leaders like Jason, like Andy, like a bunch of men that are in that forum that have posted in today's show as well. So love that you guys are here. Same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Ciao, guys.
Get more affection, love, and sex in your marriage. Get less paralyzing fear and rejection. Never miss an episode. Watch anytime, anywhere, 3 a.m. on the toilet. Get full episodes. GreatMenMoveMountains.com/VIP. The C Note Show.